Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. We are tuning in this evening for another Matchweek review. Just 2 games to go in the Bundesliga full-on season. We're reviewing Matchweek 32 tonight. Before we get stuck in, joined by Mark as per. Mark, how are you doing this evening? Resting your weary body after a heavy weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a good friend over this weekend from the UK, so it's been a typical British drinking weekend, this one. But yeah, all good. Caught a bit of the football as well. I was trying to teach him, a bit of the Bundesliga ways and everything. It seems strange not getting to a game this weekend after seeing so many matches recently as well. So yeah, it's all good. And yeah, the season's coming to an end, isn't it? But still a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah, loads to talk about. There's been some excellent games. We're treated to some real relegation thrillers, some excellent performances by teams, a fantastic Sud derby as well. So yeah, loads to get through, and we'll get stuck right into it. Before we do, just the usual odds and bods of admin. If you can do, please do leave a thumbs up, a like on the show. Always really helps us in regards to algorithms and the rest. Make sure you comment along as well. I can already see a few people tuning in, which is fantastic. So yeah, good evening, Justin. Thanks as always for tuning in. Good evening, Danny. Thanks for watching. Also, Royston as well. Thank you for watching from London. Lovely stuff. Thank you all for saying hello already. And everyone else who's watching, of course. Make sure you subscribe as well. Press that red button. Make sure you don't miss out on all the excellent content that's coming your way. Very fast and furious at the moment from the channel. Make sure you check out all the different vlogs that are live at the moment on the channel. Obviously, the latest one that's dropped was with Petre and Mark on yet another adventure at Stuttgart Kickers. What an awesome experience that must have been, Mark.
Oh, yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, superb. Yeah, I mean, obviously against Rory's B team as well, the VFB SFI team. Yeah, so it was really great. I mean, the atmosphere. Also met a few subscribers as well. Well, no, they weren't previously subscribers, but we got talking to a few guys and got them to add on to the channel as well, which was awesome. Really cool. Yeah, it was a really nice atmosphere there. Our first Regional Liga game together. So yeah, check it out and leave a comment and a like, of course.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, it looked like a great weekend and a close result as well. Obviously, it being a 2-2 draw in the end. Yeah, fantastic stuff. So let's get a cracking. And the focus, or the start of the show at least, is going to be the relegation battle. Obviously, we know what's going on in regards to the title race is over. The race for the Champions League is over, which obviously makes me breathe a sigh of relief. Obviously, the Sud derby win would have been fine anyhow. So yeah, we're going to start off with relegation. I think there's only one place to start this weekend. There were some really interesting matches, but Mark, that Sunday afternoon game between Union and Bochum was just bloody ridiculous. I mean, like, it was obviously we can work our way through the goals and kind of get into it, but from Bochum being where they were in that match to it then be such a contest, just again proves just football is a game of two halves, and Bochum just fell asleep, and it just takes that one goal, and the home side was just energized by it. Do you want to walk us through maybe the first half of it?
Yeah, I mean, some of the goals were absolutely superb. I've got to say, I actually thought it was a really high-quality game in general, and some of the goals that we'll talk you through were absolutely brilliant as well. I mean, the first goal, the Maximilian Vitek, who we've probably not seen enough of this season, in truth, because he looks like a real cool finisher, actually. I mean, he's definitely been a bit part player for most of the season, but in this particular game, he looked like a real baller, as they would say. And yeah, I mean, I thought he finished really well for the first goal. Obviously, Renov maybe could have done a little bit better, but the excellent pullback from the wing, and he finished really well first time for the 1-0. Then the second goal was just an individual goal from him, really. He was found on the edge of the area. He just tiptoed into the box around a couple of Berlin defenders, and then hit a really good shot to the near post. Maybe Renner could have done a little bit better, but I didn't think it was a massive error. We do talk about errors quite a bit, but it was a very, very nice shot and some really good play from the front man from Bochum, and Maximilian Vitek. And then, I mean, the third goal was just pure luck, basically. I mean, it was obviously Kevin Schlotterbeck, a very, very big deflection, but that ended up going into the back of the net, completely wrong-footed, the unfortunate Renner. But I actually thought it was a really, that first half was very similar standard to what they put in against Hoffenheim the previous week in the first half. But as we've seen too often this season, Bochum do struggle to see games out. They really do. And there's no way that game should have got as close as it did, because, Bochum, that first half was extremely high quality against a shot-shy Union Berlin side who, haven't really scored many goals the whole season. But Rory, I mean, they did manage to fight their way back in, but it wasn't enough, was it, for the home side?
No, it wasn't enough, but it was, it was a comeback of sorts that I didn't see coming. So it was great to see that belief or effort still. Obviously, we've got the big news today in regards to the Union head coach and their team. Obviously, Bielka has now been relieved of his duties. We'll come on to that in a sec. Obviously, really big news in regards to the Berlin club. But I mean, I suppose the one bit of, and we haven't been very positive about the now former Union head coach, have we? Because he's made a lot of not great decisions in his tenure. He obviously got involved in a couple of not nice moments in regards to when Union played Bayern and that kind of confrontation. So it was not a tenure that he or the club will look back fondly in the slightest. But he made a triple substitution at half-time that did make a difference. He brought on Petre, Vertessen and Aronson. And two of the substitutions scored. And Aronson was heavily involved in all of it. Obviously, Vertessen gets it started with a really clean strike to make it 3-1. You're kind of thinking, okay, 3-1, Union still don't score enough goals. But only minutes later, Petre does really well and kind of catch Bochum on the break a little bit. He's then played in, I can't remember who the assist comes from. Either way around, Petre shows really great strength to hold off his defender and finish calmly for 3-2. Then you're thinking, I mean, all the momentum is, completely with the home side. You thought, okay, well, 3-3 is absolutely on here. Go down the other end. The Stoiger shot is blocked and keeps the ball alive and throws it just back into the area. And again, Union just go missing marking wise defensively, and Hoffmann has that free header to make it 4-2. Nice and comfy again for the away side. Then it doesn't last any longer, because then before you know it, it's 4-3. Hollerback getting in on the end of it after some really fine work by Aronson, being able to squeeze a pass through, and Hollerback, I think he does a double nutmeg as well, so credit on that one for 4-3. Then obviously, you're thinking of this grandstand finish. It didn't really happen though for Union. I think there was a couple of chances, weren't there? Half chances. Obviously, Renault has maybe the best of them all. The keeper came up at the end of the game and had a header just over the bar, and Union's grand effort in the second half came just short. Obviously, if we're talking about ramifications and the big winners from this weekend, you can clearly see that Bochum were really helped by results and by a huge away win. 2 wins on the trot now. Union really, really struggling, and they're completely now in a real dogfight. Now winless in their last 6, Union, and it just is quite worrying for them. If we talk about the quality of the game, we were chatting, obviously, as the match was going on, Mark, and you were saying to me how relegation scraps in other countries just don't go this way, but the Bundesliga somehow just ramps up these crazy games. Both sides were just going for it, which is great to see. The XG was actually quite small on both sides. So again, it just shows the quality of the goals that were scored, which is obviously excellent to see. But where does this leave Union now? Now, obviously, they've removed the head coach and they've got 2 games to pick up a bit of momentum, and it's just obviously that game against, was it Köln next weekend? That is gigantic.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the only positive for Union Berlin at the minute is the fact that the last 2 fixtures are relatively presentable. I mean, that is a massive game, actually, that a lot of people haven't really talked about enough, really, because Köln, if they win that, they could take it to the last day, because the goal difference is reasonable enough. I think there's about 5 GD at the minute between the two sides. So a 2-0 win for Köln would have Union in all kinds of trouble going into that last home game against Freiburg. I mean, which is also a relatively presentable fixture given the SCF's form in recent weeks as well. But they're in trouble, really. I mean, automatic relegation is still not out of the question for Union Berlin at the minute. And they are looking a mess. I mean, I'm not sure about the decision to sack Bielitsa at all. I mean, it's clearly a kind of, in my view, it's a reaction. You know, they knew they had to win this game, really. If they had won this game, they'd be relatively comfortable right now. But the fact they lost it, conceding 4 at home to Bochum, it's worrying. But I still don't think it's the right decision to fire Bielitsa. But then again, myself and Peter were convinced that firing Lech was the wrong decision the other week. But let's be honest, 7 points from 4 games doesn't really suggest that from Bochum. I mean, big respect to Heiko Butcher, who, you know, basically came in with no sort of reputation, really. I mean, a lot of people were like, they're down. A lot of people were tipping them to even replace Köln in the bottom 2. And now they look as good as safe, 4 points clear with 2 games to go. They're going to need a big, unfortunate turnaround with a lot of those teams picking up, like, you know, back-to-back wins in the last couple of weeks. So they look, I wouldn't quite say safe yet because it is the Bundesliga after all. But, I mean, maximum they're going to need is 1 win now, basically. And they probably won't need that, in truth, to save VfL Bochum. Obviously, they've got to play Leverkusen next week, which doesn't exactly look appetizing. But then they go to Werder Bremen on the last day. So, you know, if they really need a win there, you could see it possible that they could go there and win if they replicate this kind of attacking performance anyway. But yeah, for Union, I mean, that game against Köln now is an unexpected, massive game. You know, I think, you know, Köln, we'll talk about it a bit more later, but obviously they got to a pretty uninspiring 0-0 draw, which looked like it was the end for them. But they are going to get another reprieve, basically, because next week's game could potentially put them in place to, it's not even impossible that Köln could avoid the playoff incredibly yet. And I know it sounds absolutely insane, but yeah, it's really, really interesting times for the bottom of the table. And I'm kind of happy for Bochum because, you know, I do like them as a club. I like a lot of the players there. You know, they have had a lot of real standout performers this season. The likes of Kevin Sturger has just been brilliant this season. And for long periods, Osterhager too. He's gone off form a little bit. But, you know, it looks like we are going to see VfL Bochum for another year. What would be the 4th straight year as well? No, the 3rd. No, would it be the 4th? The 4th straight year for Bochum. Yeah, it would be the 4th straight year if they can stay up again. Like every year they're in a dogfight, but respect to them, you know, they really do well, and it looks as though they're safe for another year. As for Union, they could still be on for a very, very big shock relegation this season.
Yeah, live post Urs Fischer is not looking too great for the Berlin club right now. Absolutely. Well, we'll watch it with great interest next week. That will be a huge game, especially if Köln can turn it around. I'm sure Moritz, just seeing you jumped into the comments, will be very much desperate for such a result. We will see. Yeah, we'll just shift on to one of the other games then. Obviously, we've got 4 games to kind of cover in this relegation battle of a sense. We've popped in the Werder Gladbach match. Maybe people to a more casual viewing of the Bundesliga might not necessarily associate Gladbach with the relegation scrap mark, but you know, it's been a really tough time for them of late. And you know, the 2-2 draw against Werder, a lot of people had Gladbach to lose, in fairness. So, and again, in regards to the way that the points have gone this weekend, it's not a bad weekend for them, but they're still hovering there a bit too nervously. Obviously, you know, they went ahead in this match. Again, some fine work, a good finish by Robin Hack. His form in the Rückrunde, I mean, his goals have maybe end up making Gladbach survive. Like, his impact has been so full, you know, on that team. Rocco Wright had a really good game. I felt he won. He was really good on the ball. Obviously, played the ball through for the first goal. Werder, though, showed that confidence in the end to come back into the match and a brace of goals for Voltemade, Mark. For his first goals in the Bundesliga, you know, you're waiting for one all that time, and then 2 come along. The first, a really good close range finish. His hit high. I think it took a little deflection, but it was probably going in. But that second goal, great header, great power on it, really commanding. And if the rumours are true, it sounds like Stuttgart are getting themselves a useful player next season. A rotation player. I wouldn't necessarily think that Voltemada would make that step up, but obviously he's got a great physical presence about him. We've seen him. We were talking about a few shows ago, like in regards to he's quite good with his feet for a big lad as well. And if he can do that from corners, then blimey, I mean, he is now just starting to go up in confidence, and we've seen that in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that I've been talking up for a few weeks because I actually thought his performances were better than his goal tally, basically. It is a big shock that this was the first time he's managed to find the back of the net this season. And obviously, as they say, buses come in twos, don't they? And once again, it happened with the big man in this game. And it does seem a little bit weird with him, the fact that basically he's announced that he's leaving the club and now he started getting played first team, which is all because he's not going to command a fee as far as I know either. I think he's leaving on a free, which is all very, very strange really from a Werder Bremen perspective. But obviously in this particular game, it definitely paid off. I think he played quite well against Stuttgart as well a few weeks ago. And in general, he's been looking very promising. And I can see what Sebastian Hoeneß and the VfB Stuttgart hierarchy see in him. And he could be another player that, Hoeneß is able to really kind of take to the next level as well, potentially next season. But as for Gladbach, I mean, it was another frustrating game for them because I thought the way they started the game was off the scale. They were absolutely brilliant. And, the opening goal was, I'm not going to quite say a classic Gladbach move, but they have scored a lot of similar goals where they kind of work the ball well through the likes of Reitz and Neuhaus to the wings. And as you say, in the second, Hack is a great finisher, as FC Nuremberg fans remember from his days in the Max-Morlock Stadion. We kind of miss those days as well. But, I was disappointed to see him fail at Bielefeld in his first stint in the Bundesliga. But, he's found himself at a really big, meaningful club in Borussia Mönchengladbach. And it's really good to see him succeed in there. And I think he's going to be one to watch out for next season because, that's 9 goals now he's managed in the Rückrunde. And it's very, very impressive numbers. But as for the Gladbach team, I just feel as though it's that defence, in truth. I just think the defence, Elvedi has just had an absolute car crash of a season, in truth. He's just not been good enough. His marking isn't good enough. I think the press from midfield as well is often not good enough there. I think Kone, who I actually gave one of the young breakout stars of the season, he hasn't had a great year for me this year, the young man. He has been injured quite a bit, but he's not, for me, I don't know if you agree, Rory, but I don't really think he's backed up that excellent opening season really last year.
No, but he was better this weekend. He won a lot.
Yeah, he was.
In this particular match. But overall, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
He was better in this game. And the likes of, there's been too much rotation around the back. I think Itakura is a player with real potential, but maybe he's not being used right. He is a very technical player, so maybe he's a player that could drift more towards midfield in the future. Scally is another one that I just don't understand why he's rated, if I'm being honest with you. I know I even saw that AC Milan were linked with him. I mean, Gladbach are going to be literally begging, please take him off us, basically, because I know, our friends at Bully News like the young man, but I just don't see defensively. I just don't think he does enough, and he's always got a mistake in him and stuff. And I thought he had another, after a solid first 30 minutes or so, he also faded in the game. But I mean, for Gladbach, looking at the table now, I do believe that the more or less safe courtesy of the fact that Mainz didn't beat Heidenheim. I think if Mainz could have edged Heidenheim in that late game on the Sunday, they would have been in a bad situation going into the last 2 games. But I think 4 points better off with a good goal difference as well. I mean, their goal difference is far better than any of the sides down there. So that effectively makes it 5 points clear with 2 games left. I think they've got to be considered still in it, absolutely. But I don't believe I don't believe they will go down. And I think they've always got that quality in them. But at the end of the day, 7 wins with that squad is not good enough. 7 wins out of 32 games. I mean, I'm a big fan of Gerardo Sioane as well. I do like him as a manager. I remember those great days when he was at Leverkusen, but for some reason, it's just not quite caught fire for him this season. And I'm struggling to know why, because going forward, I think there's been enough there, really. I think they've scored 55 goals, and they probably lack that consistent goal scorer. Like in the first half of the season, it was Player, the second half, Hack, but they've not had that, 15, 20 goal a season striker this year. But again, it's very hard to know where it's gone wrong. I do think it's probably been the goalkeeping issues. Nicolas didn't really cover himself in glory in the first half of the season. And I wouldn't say Omlin has really, come to his top form either since he came back into the side. So, there is stuff to work on. I think Gladbach have got the spine of a good team there. I really do. If they can keep some of those better players, as I said, the emergence of Hack is a massive bonus for them. And I think next season he is one to watch. But for this season, it's just not been a good year for them ultimately on the pitch. And they will stay up, but it's a season to forget for the BMG.
Yeah, no, agreed. And obviously just credit for Werder from the position that they were in to now to be mathematically safe is obviously a great news for the men in green. So a really good weekend for them in regards to safety in the Bundesliga, and they've done a good job to turn their form around. Well, just the last two games on this then obviously had really big, impactful parts of the weekend in regards to relegation. I suppose if we start with the 0-0, it would kind of go in chronologically for Köln, having one of their final opportunities to push forward and get a 3-pointer against Freiburg. It didn't really come to pass. They huffed and they puffed, but they couldn't blow the Freiburg goal down. A couple of chances in the first half in a cagey affair. I think obviously maybe the highlight or the biggest game in this is the chance for Ali Du, where Tigges actually does quite well from a cross and toe pokes it towards him, and he kind of looks like he's already falling backwards and has to take the shot a bit too early, but obviously he hits it okay, but it goes straight at a Tuvalu, and obviously therefore the keeper makes the save. Unfortunately for Köln, that wasn't enough. The draw, we didn't know at the time whether it would be enough to keep the side in the league. But obviously results kind of went their way there, therefore after, to give them another go going forward into this weekend. But I mean, we've talked about it a lot already, Mark, and we know about it. It's just the goals at the end of the day. So, like Köln in this match, they had 20 shots compared to Freiburg's 4. I mean, that's pretty damning for Freiburg as well, but we can talk about them in a minute. Freiburg had no shots on target as well. So it goes to show that Köln actually, played the game okay overall. But yeah, I mean, they're sitting bottom of the table in regards to league goals. They have 24 league goals so far this season. And when you start to look at the stats a bit more, that's versus having the 11th most shots. So they're mid-table in terms of having shots. So conversion is a huge issue. They have the most crosses from open play by any team. But who are they crossing the ball to? Because Selke's injured, has been injured and has been in and out of the team. Tigges and Co as well just haven't hit the mark. And obviously Tigges is a big lad, but it just hasn't converted. So, and we know how much they work and they press and they run around. They cover great ground. So they've covered the 5th most kilometers in the league, consistent with what they were doing with Baumgart. But it all just feels a little bit headless chicken-like, if I'm being really horrible in a sense. Mark, would you back that up? Or, it's clear and obvious, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that really believes that Timo Schultz has improved the team. I really do believe that. But the problem is, as you say, they've not got the quality in front of goal. That's been the simple thing. I think this was another example of a game where they should have won it, ultimately. They were the better team. They never create massive XG. It's very rarely more than like 1.2, 1.5. But at the end of the day, one or even 2 of those chances probably should have been able to find the back of the net. And then, we'd be talking about them potentially making a great escape, next week against Union. But as things stand, they're still going to need a borderline miracle, basically, to keep them up. They're going to need to win the 2 games and then hope that other teams mess up, basically. So they are very, very close to the brink, basically. But yeah, it is a pity. It really is, because I actually think there have been a few bright sparks from Köln in the second half of the season. I just think Chabot and Hoovers have been very, very good. I really do, in the centre-half partnership. I just feel as though Chabot is surely going to get a good move, I think, in the summer, because he looks a player that's got all the attributes, and I feel as though he's had a good season. I also feel as though Marvin Schweber as well has had a really good season this year, but there have been, the likes of Florian Kainz hasn't been good enough, ultimately. Waldschmidt has been in and out. Ali Du has been a positive, but even then, he's not a 10, 15 goal a season striker, I don't think. I'm a little bit surprised we've not seen more of the likes of Damien Downs, actually, as well. I think he looked good when he played against Gladbach in the derby a few weeks ago. And even Justin Deal, he provides them something a bit different rather than just the big man. It just seems they always want to play like some 6'8" guy up front for every game, basically, like whether it's Selke or Tigges. Like, that's probably why they swing all those crosses in, Rory, because that's obviously the style of play. They just want to bring it up to the big man. But the thing is, these big men, they can't finish half of the time. So you need like runners in behind, who are going to finish it. But they also can't finish for Köln at the minute. That's the issue. So, yeah, I know Köln fans have been pretty cheesed off for the whole season. I don't actually think they've been dreadfully bad. They're not like an absolutely woeful side. They don't concede heaps of goals by any means. And they're mostly in games as well. They don't get battered that often. But it's just a downright lack of quality in front of goal. It really is. I mean, just to look at the numbers, they've conceded 54 goals. And that there's actually a lot of teams that have conceded round about them that are a lot higher than them. For example, Augsburg have conceded more. Gladbach have conceded significantly more. Union have conceded the same number, and the likes of Mainz and Wolfsburg only a few less. So, I mean, the defence hasn't been absolutely catastrophic this season, but they just can't score. And if you can't score, you don't win games. And that's why Köln are ultimately going to get relegated this season.
Yeah, we'll wait until next week, obviously, to get any kind of official confirmation. But, football has many different miracles, and we might get one more. And then, the last game of the weekend, obviously, was the Heidenheim-Mainz match, which ended in a 1-1 draw. I guess a result that neither team are particularly pleased about. It was quite an even game, this overall, I think, Mark. Both teams had decent periods of being more dominant in it. And obviously, Mainz got themselves ahead in the first half via that lovely finish by Johnny Burkhardt. His form continuing. A few shouts here and there for Burkhardt into that Euro squad as well, making a late charge. It would be great for him because he really struggled with with those injuries of late, and it'd be really nice for him. But again, in the last few weeks, they've just been pegged back. And we, when I did the prediction show on Thursday, talking about the suspensions, which I was a bit worried about in terms of Mainz, particularly going forwards. And Heidenheim were able to peg them back via Tim Kleindienst. His form continues as well, getting another goal to bring it back to 1-1. So, I mean, a draw's not ideal for any side. Obviously, Heidenheim, away from a safety point of view. Mainz, it just completely, changes the atmosphere, the landscape that they're now facing for their last two games. And if you look at it, all those draws, 14 draws so far this season, with just those 5 wins, have really cost them. Bo Henriksen's impact on this side has been really clear. They've played some fantastic stuff, and they are still unbeaten in, I think, their last 6 games. But those three of those last games have been draws, and those draws it was almost like Stuttgart last season a little bit. Stuttgart could never get those big wins. They often drew games, and points are okay when you're mid-table or whatever, but not when you're in a relegation race. So what was missing maybe this week, Mark? Was it just a case of them missing some of those players that were suspended?
Yeah, it is actually 7 unbeaten and only 2 defeats in 11 since Henriksen came in, actually. And actually 4 of the 5 wins have been under Henriksen as well. So, I mean, nobody can say he's not had an impact. He's done really, really well, I would say. But as you say, the 3 back-to-back 1-1 draws are frustrating for them, especially the last 2, because to go ahead, especially get the last week against Köln, they should have been able to see that game through before a kind of bottleless second half, really, a little bit. This one wasn't quite a bottleless second half, I wouldn't say, but obviously Heidenheim are a strong home team, and they don't lose many games at home, and they were able to bring it back. I still think it's a decent point for Mainz, so in truth, because as we mentioned, they were missing a whole list of names, including key players like Amiri through suspension. So they basically got through that now. That is important, basically. Although I think a couple have also picked up suspensions again for next week, from what I can gather. So basically, they are in a bit of a pickle with that. But it was still a strong team that went out in this game. You had the likes of a Jork, Lee was back, Burkhardt, Dominic Harcourt, Leandro Barrero. So it was far from being a weak side, really, for Mainz standards. But I mean, Amiri, he's the kind of guy that can unlock a defense, a hard-working side like Heidenheim. He is the kind of guy that could thread that pass through or hit that shot or hit that free kick that's going to get you the 3 points in this match. But as I say, I actually see this as a good point, even though most people would see it as a bad point. But when you look at the fixtures in the games, obviously they've got Dortmund at home next. But, I wouldn't actually be shocked to see Mainz go out there and beat Dortmund. I really wouldn't, because obviously Dortmund have got much bigger fish to fry with this second leg of the Champions League coming this week, and if they get to the final, there's going to be a fair few beers on the way back from Paris, I would imagine, before that one. And this is effectively a dead rubber for the BBB as well, providing they go through, especially to the final, So it's not as hard a fixture as it initially looks, I don't think, that Dortmund at home. And then obviously they finish at Wolfsburg, who've also had a bit of a resurgence of their own. But it doesn't look unwinnable. They'll probably need 4 points to avoid the playoff, I would say. I would say that's, with a decent goal difference, that's what they would need in order to avoid the playoff, because that would mean that Union could win a game and they could still finish above them if they got 4 points. So I do believe 4 points has got to be the aim. Can they get it? It's tough, basically, because they are coming up against tough opponents with better squads, ultimately, than what Mainz have. But I'm going to say they will do it. I'm going to say they're going to do it, and that it's actually going to be Union who play the playoff, actually. I do believe that. I've been saying for a few weeks that I think Mainz are going to get out of it, and I've got to stick with my guns and say they're going to do it. What do you think, Rory? Are Mainz going to get out of the playoff?
I felt they would do, but I felt they would have done it already. So I'm a little bit concerned with now what obviously lays before them. But for love or money, apart from that very random second half comeback from Union, I can't see much from them either. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see obviously where we land in that relegation playoff spot. Whoever lands in it's not going to be in the greatest fettle either. So in regards to the Zweite playoff team, whoever it might be, whether it's Fortuna Düsseldorf or Hamburg, then they'll both go into that feeling quite confident. But yeah, great way to start the show, because there's a lot going on with relegation. We wanted to give it its due credit, because obviously we've been starting off the show most weeks with other topics. So that's grand. We'll move on to the final kind of races that we have at the moment, which is the race for 7th place. In a sense that we know our top five. Frankfurt are obviously sitting in 6th place, and we don't know what might happen with them and Champions League football next season either, with this magical potential 6th spot for the Bundesliga. We shall see. Obviously this week with the second legs, which will be great. So we have obviously a few teams involved in this market. We've tried to do this carefully. And the word race obviously is kind of highlighted because no one seems to want to come 7th at the moment, because the teams that are playing and vying for this spot are just so inconsistent, up and down, up and down. I mean, if we start with the Dortmund-Augsburg match, for example, I mean, this is a game that surely Augsburg would have wanted to target. We know, I mean, Dortmund rotated a lot. You saw debuts for youngsters. Obviously, Marco Reus getting his part of his farewell tour, which we'll talk about as well. Obviously, the big news for Marco Reus is going to be leaving Dortmund at the end of the season, which is obviously really, really sad. But yeah, no show from Augsburg. Some, not great bits of defending for the opening couple of goals for me. A brace and a very odd brace for Yusufa Moukoko, getting the first goal, kind of flicking it in after a botched clearance, obviously making it 1-0. Donny Marlon as well, almost the forgotten man of late. Donny Marlon at Dortmund as well, because Sancho's come in and done so well. Getting in on the end of a good cross from Bino Gittins, another player that we haven't seen as much of. So all these players that came in for Dortmund, Mark, really stepped it up and played with great freedom. And, Felix Metscher getting a goal, Royce, of course, being involved in a goal and 2 assists. So great afternoon for BVB. They'll be going into that second leg in Paris feeling absolutely flying.
Yeah, I think it was a classic performance when, no real pressure on a lot of those players. I think, and basically the stars aligned, and it was a really good attacking performance. It almost kind of reminded me of a day gone by from Dortmund, where they were just super attacking in this game. We've not seen that as much for me under Edin Terzic. But, we saw a lot of that historically under the likes of Marco Rose, just super, super attacking Dortmund. Basically, that was their identity forever, basically, before Terzic came in and made them a little bit more disciplined, a bit more, I wouldn't say defensive is the right word, but maybe more tactical, I would say, a little bit under Terzic. But this was a game he'd obviously just said, go out there and enjoy yourself, I think, really. And it was nice to see some of those, almost forgotten faces, especially Moukoko, who, just is not really, you've got to question what he's going to do now, really, because he's getting a little bit older, towards 19, 20 now, and he's still not even close to being a regular in that side. Does he need a year away on loan? Does he even need a move? I'm not sure. I would like to see give it another year yet at Dortmund, but maybe a loan could be the best way for him to get more regular game time. But he is a proven Bundesliga goal scorer, ultimately. He's a very good finisher, and while he lacks consistency on his day, he's a top quality centre forward at Bundesliga level. Marlon, as you say, it is somewhat of a shock that he's dropped out of the way, because I've always rated him. I just think he's a great player. And, he's barely put a foot wrong the last 18 months at Dortmund, but he's just been replaced by more informed players, I guess, for a Dortmund side who have finished the season really strongly, apart from, the odd poor result. Yeah. But, Royce obviously announcing the fact that he's leaving the club. That was a great serenade he got at the end as well when he was controlling the ultras. I thought that was a really nice moment as well. Obviously, you could say his legs have gone a little bit. It will be interesting to see where he goes, whether he decides to go to, for money in the US or in Saudi, or whether he does decide to join another Bundesliga club. But I don't see him staying in the Bundesliga, and he's probably a bit too slow for the Premier League now, I think, potentially. So it is likely to be probably the US, potentially, or even Saudi. But yeah, he's been an absolute stalwart for Dortmund, a fantastic player, just an amazing Bundesliga legend, really, obviously, right back to his time at Mönchengladbach, where he made a great impact and went on to be a modern Bundesliga legend, really. There's no question about that. So respect to him, and wish him the best for if he obviously leaves the Bundesliga. As for Augsburg, it truly is a snail's race, basically, Rory. I mean, I can't remember which coach it was that described it as the relegation as a snail's race earlier in the season, but basically the relegation race has become the top 7 race now. I mean, this has been a truly brilliant Bundesliga season. It really has. I mean, I think out of all the seasons we've covered, this has been my favourite, just because, your Leverkusen performances, your Stuttgart, even Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig at times have just played some scintillating football. But basically the top 7 race has been a below par standard in many ways. Not because the teams in it are particularly poor, just that they've got no consistency. And I think this year you could probably say, like, basically from 6th with Frankfurt right down to like 14th, 15th, that there's pretty much no difference between the standards of the teams. It all depends on the given day with those teams, really. And I think that's the reason why it's been so inconsistent. We've seen Augsburg have good runs, but they've just fallen off a cliff edge the last few weeks. And, it looks as though they're going to run up short. Whether it's a bad thing, I don't know for Augsburg, because I just don't think they've got the finances or the clout to kind of pull enough players for a European adventure, really. And I think, I'm not going to quite say that's the reason why they've fallen apart, but I think that would have been in the back of their minds, really, for Augsburg. You know, maybe a European run would have been more trouble than it's worth, really, for the FCA, who, you know, are on this crazy run of like 13, 14 years in the Bundesliga, which nobody thought was possible when they got there for the first time in 2011. So respect to them. Yeah, obviously, Rory, I mean, quite an entertaining game on Friday evening as well between Hoffenheim and RB as well. I actually thought Hoffenheim played really well in this game and were probably a little bit unlucky not to get over the line and win it. But as has often been the case, Rory, they weren't quite able to get over the line, were they?
No, obviously playing an RB side that had, no pressure on them either. I thought RB might go there and run riot a little bit. I think I put in the predictions 3 or 4-1. I mean, good to see for, Šeško backing up that form. You know, we've been talking about Goalpender an awful lot, haven't we, most of this season, and it's good to see that Šeško is now, getting some goals. 5 in 5 now, I think it is. So, pleasing for him. I know there will be a lot of big teams looking at him. I think his release clause this season is active in regards to, I think it's now gone up to around 65, 70 million euros. Standard Premier League teams will be sniffing around in that sense. But yeah, he's got all the attributes, Šeško, so it's good to see that he got himself another goal from a round cross, obviously returning to his old club, as was Baumgartner, who came on in the second half. But yeah, Hoffenheim maybe disappointed not to have got the win in the end. The second half largely shaped by that Xavi Simons red card, obviously two yellow cards, equating to a red and put Leipzig under pressure. And eventually Hoffenheim battered the door down with a Kramaric effort, some good form for Kramaric late on in the season as well, which is great to see. The Hoffenheim legend, so to speak. Good, a good game on Friday night to get kick-started, and it kind of helps Hoffenheim in the sense of that seventh space spot. I think the one thing that you can pick out for Hoffenheim, this season is just obviously their defensive woes. So Hoffenheim have bagged the 6th most goals this season, but they've conceded the 3rd highest. They've conceded 64 goals all season, which is, pretty shambolic, really, overall, for Hoffenheim. And therefore, it's got to be pressure on, Pellegrino Matarazzo to turn things around. Will he have time to do it? You don't know. In the summer, I think that we could see quite a lot of managerial merry-go-rounds happening once more, because things at quite a lot of clubs just aren't sitting right. So we could see quite a lot of change, I think, in the summer. And Hoffenheim are just one of those sides who are kind of meandering towards the end of the season. So they might have European football, but do they deserve it based on some of those stats? Probably not. An interesting game. And then, we've thrown in Wolfsburg into this kind of category, which is hilarious in a sense, because they're only 2 weeks ago in our relegation brackets. The league is so condensed between 7th and 14th or something like that. I think it's crazy how close it is, which obviously shows so many teams are just beating each other, and that consistency in the top half of the table is just not there. The top 5 and maybe 6 teams are quite clearly above everyone else in terms of quality and consistency. Wolfsburg's 3-0 home win against Darmstadt was expected. A goal for Jonas Wind, good to see. And obviously Wimmer as well. He played a good game, I thought. Comfortable against the already relegated Darmstadt. A couple of chances for Skarka as well that, might have given the away side a bit of joy, but a couple of his efforts just going wide, unfortunately. I think the brightest part of the Darmstadt was maybe their kit, their orange and blue kit, because otherwise, they weren't able to put up much of a battle. against Wolfsburg. And Wreck-It Ralph Hasenhüttl's done an okay job, hasn't he, Mark? I know he hasn't brought the prettiest of football, but he's been effective overall, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's just taught them how to win again, basically, which by the end of the Kovac reign, they just couldn't do. And yeah, I think he has done well, to be honest. Yeah, I do rate him as a coach and a manager, to be honest. I really do. I think he did a good, underrated job at Southampton. Even though it finished poorly, he had them for 2 or 3 years, very comfortable in mid-table and, an unfancied Southampton side. And he looks to have really kind of rallied this Wolfsburg side. And what I've always said is it's not a bad squad, what Wolfsburg have got. It's really not. And, they shouldn't be anywhere near like the bottom 4 or 5 like they were for long periods of this season. Like the very worst that Wolfsburg should be is like chasing for top 7, to be honest. So they're probably not going to get it. They are 4 points adrift. I think that Freiburg point just about borderline put them out of the race. They're going to need a lot of results to go their way. But then again, as you say, Freiburg have looked anything but convincing in recent weeks. So who's to say they'll only pick up another point? And, maybe if Wolfsburg can win their last 2, even though they go to Bayern next week. But again, will Bayern really be focused in that game? And at this stage of the season, a lot of it comes down to which teams really want to be there, basically, as well. And, the likes of Bayern and Dortmund this week, at the end of the day, they're going to be focused on these massive games that they've got. They're not going to care about playing Wolfsburg and Mainz at the weekend, really. Very, very, very limited priority will go to those games. So basically, yeah, I mean, it is mathematically possible, so we've got to include them, the same with Gladbach in the relegation. But it is good to see Wolfsburg get back to form because, they are an asset to the Bundesliga. They're always a team that look to sign good young players and exciting players. The likes of Wimmer has come into some form again the back end of the season. A player that I always loved at Bielefeld. And, he's really starting to show what he can do after patchy form since he's joined Wolfsburg. Meyer has also had a decent second half of the season. He looks to be getting a little bit better. Still not quite convinced about the Riedel back who moved further forward. He seems a bit inconsistent in that position, but he's tried a few things. He's got the best out of Maxi Arnold again, which is good to see. I mean, at the end of the day, he was brought in to save them ultimately because it was really looking bleak by the end of the Kovac reign. He's done that with aplomb. He's done that very, very comfortably.
Yeah.
And as you say, he is basically back within a chance of Europe, which is incredible, really. But he's probably not going to get it. But who's to say if they can go and win at the Allianz Arena next week? Maybe they will be in with a shot into the last week.
Yeah, very much so. The rest of the show will be concentrating on the best of the rest. And it's not often in this section that we have, the top 6 clubs, 4 of the top 6 clubs in the league. But yeah, we wanted to make sure tonight we gave, due credit to relegation and those other kind of things that haven't been settled in the league. Of course, we had the Sud derby this weekend between Stuttgart and Bayern. And it was a rare win, as you can see in the title of tonight's show for Stuttgart. An entirely deserved one, though. What an awesome performance by the VfB boys. Really, really good going. First home win against Bayern since 2007 or 2008, I want to say. Long overdue. Bayern were able to get themselves back into it via a Harry Kane goal, and is now looking a little bit more unlikely that he's going to break or maybe even draw level with Louis' record now. But yeah, VfB went in front, deservedly so. They had a few good chances early on. There was a great goal line clearance by Eric Dyer, Bayern's best defender basically at the moment, from a Guirassy effort. So that should have been 1-0. They did eventually go 1-0 up thanks to a Steragu goal. He was played in by Undav. Really clever finish over Neuer to make it 1-0. Then going into the second half, it was it was a late show, but it was a show of the substitutes made by Sebastian Hoeneß, Mark. Silas and Woo Young-jung come into the fore. So Silas crossing the ball first for Woo Young-jung to score against his old club. I mean, he played like one game for Bayern, but against his old club to make it 2-1. And then Silas profiting late on, Guirassy winning the ball in the penalty area, and he finished really well to make it 3-1. VfB go marching on. That would have confirmed top 4, Champions League spots if there was anything riding on it in that sense, Mark. But just, validation for what a ridiculously amazing season it's been for Stuttgart.
Yeah, and I think it was actually really important for Sebastian Hoeneß to say that they'd done it through their own back, as he said, basically, as well, because obviously there were the 5 points, 5 places made available as a result of the midweek European games, but he wanted to, basically claim Champions League through their own work, basically. So he wanted to finish in that top 4. And that's exactly what he's done. And what a way to do it with your first win over your rivals, your South rivals since 2007 at home anyway. So what an effort, and it's just yet another kind of accolade for this team, basically, in what has just been a miracle season. I've always said this year that if it wasn't for Leverkusen, we'd be talking about Stuttgart like one of the greatest stories in Bundesliga history. But unfortunately, a certain team from up the road in Leverkusen have slightly outshone them, but not by much, to be honest. And this was another superb performance. I'll be honest with you, I thought the penalty that Bayern got was an absolute joke, if I'm being honest, really. I couldn't believe it. I saw that and I was like, no way, come on, guys. And I think even the Bayern fans were joking a bit over that one, because it was a bit of a joke, to be honest. And, it was a very, very much deserved win from Stuttgart. I thought one of the moments of the match, though, was that crazy clearance off the line from Eric Dyer when he ended up with the blood on his head. I mean, he's becoming a bit of a cult hero in Bavaria at the minute, because, he was brought into less than a fanfare, in truth, and he's gone on to be their best defender this season and a key part in that Champions League run, and the kind of semi-revival under Thomas Tuchel as well towards the back end of the season. So respect to him. Who knows? He might even end up getting in the Euro squad. I wouldn't be surprised knowing Gareth Southgate. He does like a defensive-minded player. Yeah. But I thought, again, Stuttgart, it was really nice to see Woo Young-jong get the goal, because he's a player that I've always rated, and he's not got that much game time this season simply because other players have just been better, basically. It's as simple as that. Obviously, he got a knock quite early on. Then he went to the Asia Cup with South Korea. And since then, he's just not been able to work his way back in, because basically every Stuttgart player has just been playing out of the skin the entire season. So It was nice to see him get his big moment. It's always a big moment to score the winning goal against the Stern des Südens, as they call themselves, the Star of the South. But to be honest, at the end of the game, I thought it was quite nice that the Bayern fans didn't turn on the players. They were giving them a very good send-off to Madrid as well for the massive encounter. Things have kind of brightened up a little bit at Bayern, I've got to say. I mean, that petition that was signed, 12,000 people want Tuchel to stay. I'm not sure whether that's based on improved performances or just the fact that basically everyone's turned them down. I don't know, but
it has to say by default, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is getting to the point where it's ridiculous, I think, obviously, Rangnick was the latest one to turn them down. And then the guy from Benfica, as well, Schmidt, has also come out and distanced himself from the job as well. So who are they going to go for? It's going to be John Smith and his mate. Maybe even Southgate himself might end up getting it. Who knows? Yeah. But it is getting a bit bleak, and you are getting to the point where you're going to wonder, is it really worth getting rid of Tuchel? Because, I mean, are the other candidates better, I mean, if you were getting in Nagelsmann or especially Alonso, you would say, yes, they probably are better. But to be honest, some of the names that have been linked in recent weeks, unless it is Hoeneß, I mean, that's the big talking point, isn't it? Because, Hoeneß does have connections to Bayern Munich through family, the nephew of the famous Hoeneß, Uli Hoeneß. And I think there's definitely a chance that he could be poached. I'm a little bit surprised as to why a move hasn't been made. Maybe that is in respect to Stuttgart, or maybe they believe it's a little bit too early for him yet, because he is still a young man. He's still only 36, 37, I think, Hoeneß. So, that is a possibility as well now. I don't think we're going to see Tuchel stay, because I think it's also a hit to his pride as well. He's a very confident and proud man. He's not going to want to say, no, okay, I'll stay now after you've sacked me, basically.
Yeah.
He'll be happy though. He'll be happy with how things are going because it's a bit of a kind of kick in the teeth for the Bayern board, the fact that maybe they have made the wrong decision at the minute, especially if they get through to the final. There's going to be even louder screams to keep Tuchel in, I think. What do you think, Rory? Who's going to get the Bayern job, do you think?
Yeah, anyone. Honestly, it's very hard to say at this moment. They might focus more on Hernes. I'd be desperately disappointed if he did do that. I think Champions League football for Stuttgart next season is too irresistible for him. And as Danny said in the comments, seeing Hernes on the fence with the fans, unreal. And there was great scenes at the end of the game. So yeah, no, absolutely. With Bayern, they just have to get it sorted soon, don't they? Like you say, that links with Lopetegui today, but it sounds like he's now agreed to go to West Ham. So it's another rejection in a sense, or they spoke to him. So yeah, my guess is as good as yours, to be honest, right now, Mark. But yeah, no, great weekend for the VfB. Just want to quickly pick up on the boys are after you, Mark. Not sure we can trust Mark's commentary considering all the Stuttgart Kickers gear he was wearing a few days ago. But I'm sure.
Come on, guys.
we'll have to let him off maybe in the spirit of getting content for the channel. But yeah, watch yourself now, Mark, with those VfB fans. Last game that we're going to cover, and yeah, this won't have happened much this season, but the amazing Leverkusen march on 5-1 against Frankfurt away from home. Again, a much changed Leverkusen side, but everyone just doing their job perfectly. Nice to see a couple of decent performances. One from Hlozek, because we haven't seen much from him. He got a couple of assists, so I thought he played quite well. And a first appearance of the season, or since he signed for Artur, who obviously is this Brazilian fullback or wingback that Leverkusen signed. And he's had his injury worries, I think, most of the season. But he got his first start, and he was involved in a lot of good things, lots of good crosses and cutbacks in that match as well, which led to chances or goals. So yeah, really impressive. I mean, Leverkusen obviously now have they've equaled Benfica's long-standing run of 48 matches unbeaten now, which is a record that has stood for 56 years, if I've got my notes right, or I can't remember what I've written down. Either way around, crazy numbers, crazy team, and they just go rolling on, Mark, for the second leg, obviously at home to Roma on Thursday as well.
Yeah, I mean, the two performances they put in this week were just ridiculous in many ways. I mean, a team that has just given us so much, and to give us another week like to this standard is just getting ridiculous now, really. It really is, because I watched the game in Roma, and I'll be honest, I was honestly a little bit worried that they get turned over in Roma, because I just felt as though, not because I think Roma are a better team, I just felt as though, the antics of Roma are well known for being a team that know how to kind of bully teams, especially in the Olimpico. I was a bit worried that they might get turned over, but to win it the way they did, I just thought they were superb in that. That was maybe their best performance of the season in any, considering the situation. And then to follow that up with a massively rotated team and to beat Frankfurt 5-1 in the Deutsche Bank Arena, it's just basically off the scale, And again, it was that man Granit Xhaka with another amazing strike from outside the area. He has been as good as any player for Leverkusen this year, really. And many people have been talking in recent weeks that maybe he has been the ultimate catalyst in this team. The leadership and the winning mentality that he's instilled into this team. Although many would disagree with that, considering he came from Arsenal. But, but still, I mean, this is a man who's played at the top of the game for pretty much his entire career, and he was I think me and you, Rory, said what a signing for them as well in summer, but nobody thought he could play this well. And he's been a mainstay in that side. He's barely missed a match. And what an absolute season he's had, really. And, even Andrik dropping back to centre half. I mean, he's just been an absolute cult hero this season, hasn't he? And he looks like he's going to be a shoe-in for a starting position in the German national team as well. It's just been endless quality from them. And this was another top-level performance as well. As you say, Hlozek was one of the stars. It was good to see Frimpong get his first goal in a little while as well, with his 9th strike of the season. And even Boniface, off the bench again for his 12th of the season. It's just, It is just getting ridiculous, basically, for them. Can they do? We've been talking about this for a while, and I don't think this is getting talked up as much as it should be. I mean, they're literally 5 games away from going the entire season unbeaten. I mean, I don't think that's ever been done in football history before, at least since the seasons have been long. And we're now literally within realistic territory that could happen. I mean, as you say, they've got Roma Thursday, then Bochum away, then they've got Augsburg, then the Cup final, and hopefully the Europa final. So literally 5 games from going the entire season, August through May, unbeaten. I mean, this is just simply think about your great Real Madrid teams, your great Man United teams, your Liverpool teams of the 70s and 80s. None of them were able to do that. And this is just absolutely off the scale what this Leverkusen team have done, basically.
Yeah. It's beyond even thinking about. And yeah, if you're a Leverkusen fan, you're probably pinching yourself every week. But we'll just keep on watching them and enjoying them for as long as we can do. They'll go into the football legend if they do achieve it. So yeah, good luck to them, and another great performance by them. So yeah, that's us. That's time this evening. It's been really fun to go through things and dive into relegation and more. Thank you so much to everyone that's got involved. Loads of great chat in the comments section. Thank you to everyone that's got involved. Really appreciate everyone helping this community grow and grow. We put it in the comment section a little bit earlier on. So depending on what format you're watching the show on, we've had our highest ever live viewers on a show this evening, 130 plus across all the different platforms that we use. So honestly, thank you to everyone that's tuned in. It's been great fun. And, we hope to continue to do this for you all strongly towards the end of the season. So yeah, that's it from me. I'll let you close up tonight's show, Mark.
Yep. So obviously we have a lot of new viewers as well today in the chat. So if you've enjoyed what you saw today, then check out our Twitter feed, which some of you are watching through as well, I do believe, on over the bar being at Village Footy 20. If you enjoyed our Bundesliga coverage, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as well, because it really helps. We want to create this community, within Bundesliga fans from all over the world. So don't forget to do that, guys. Click the like button at the bottom and also the subscribe. Where we do regular shows. We've also got vlogs from the Bundesliga as well, more and more of them coming out. And yeah, you've got to keep checking out that stuff and keep getting hooked on this brilliant league in this great nation. So yeah, and also don't forget, guys, that we are also a podcast as well. So you can check us out over there. We'll link that in the description. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Fantastic show, guys. Thank you to all those guys commenting as well. I know we've not got through everything tonight, but DNNY, Justin Crozer, Stuttgart Americana, Moritz, Ballum, of course, BVB David, so many others as well. Thank you so much for your support. And we'll see you again on Thursday for the predictions for week 33. See you then, guys.
Cheers all.